Hi everyone. For those who just joined in, welcome to our welcome to today's session of VC Live. Thank you so much for joining in today. Just a couple of announcements again. Please ensure that your video is off and that you're on mute throughout the session. You will of course get a chance to interact with us during the session. So if you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat box to share your questions, and we hope to get them answered from our experts today. Thank you, and we'll be starting very soon. All right, welcome everyone to today's session of VC Live by Godrej Locks and Architectural Fittings and Systems. A little bit about Value Co-Creators Live, that's VC Live. VC Live is a monthly series of interactive and educative conversations with experts in the field of architecture and design. In the first season of this initiative, we are addressing various aspects of what makes design conscious and how one can design consciously, what it means, what it entails, and how it can be achieved. Through informal but insightful conversations with experts as well as with young talent, we hope to define an equitable and empathic process of creating environments that are responsive to the needs and aspirations of its inhabitants. So this initiative, like I mentioned earlier, is a part of the Godrej Value Co-Creators Club, that's GVCC. Established last year, the GVCC is a platform for nurturing the architecture and interior design community. Through this platform, Godrej Locks and Architectural Fittings and Systems seeks to build strong relationships with practitioners like you through regular engagement and educative endeavors just like this one. They hope to increase awareness and encourage free flow of information about ideologies, practices, products, as well as facilitate better understanding of market trends. While GVCC is an incentive-driven program, it also hopes to celebrate design excellence through an annual awards program called GVs. In fact, we just had our first edition of GVs this year, which was a huge success. So we also hope to engage the community with initiatives such as VC Live, which Mrinani and I have had the pleasure of co-curating and hosting. To join the GVCC and to enjoy exclusive benefits as architects and designers, you can visit the link that I'm just going to place in the chat. So what you can do is share your details and to know more about how you can be a part of this exclusive club just for the growing architects and interior design community. I'm sure you must know already, if you've joined us, that this is our fourth masterclass today. Just by show of hands, I wanted to understand how many of you have been with us, how many of you have attended this masterclass session with us before, and how many of you have attended this masterclass before? Okay, quite a few, yeah. All right, by show of hands, yeah. And Okay, that's great. Lovely. Good to see so many of you back. Thank you so much for joining in again. All right. And yeah, by show of hands again, or maybe through an either icon, how many of you are attending this masterclass for the first time? How many of you are attending this masterclass for the first time? Okay, I can see quite a few hands there as well. So it's nice to see a good mix of new architects and designers. So welcome to the people who are joining us for the first time, and welcome back to those who have been following us since the first session. Thank you so much for your support. So as you may or may not know, we hosted our first masterclass back in February. And so far, we've had some really interesting, inspiring talent, sharing information about the market, about their expertise. So we've had Madhav Raman, Nishita Kamdar, Richa Bell, Yatin Patel, and today, of course, we have Rahul Shankhwalker, who we're going to introduce in a second. A little bit about the curators, that's Mrinalini and me. So Mrinalini is an architect by training, but having practiced architecture and lighting design, she taught at university, researched historical narratives, and has been the founding editor of Mondo Arc India and Stir. Her curiosities now lie in questioning normative mechanisms in the creative community, usually through written and curatorial practices. So Mrinalini, do you want to say hi to everyone?
Hello, good to have everyone here, and a warm welcome to Rahul and Sham for the evening.
Thanks, Mrinalini. A little bit about me. I don't like to talk too much about myself, but having been put on the spotlight, I am a creative writer, a trained creative writer. I'm an educator and I'm a curator of storytelling experiences. I have previously worked with brands and businesses like Jaipur Rugs, Godrej Properties, L Decor, Exchange for Media. But now my focus is more towards brand building and marketing communication strategies for design, luxury, retail, real estate, social impact businesses. Onwards now to introducing what today's masterclass is. So we're going to talk about emerging trends in hospitality design. So redesigning structures and objects in our lives in direct response to climate change and in service to a healthier world. And it's becoming a rule now, not just an exception. Of course, post the pandemic, the hospitality industry has experienced a wave of optimism with renewed expectations from both travelers as well as patrons, whether it means prioritizing sanitation, mental health, overall well-being, to even introducing energy-reducing technologies, and of course, focusing on hyper-local design. Before we actually start the masterclass, we wanted to actually load our first audience poll, where we wanted to ask everyone what is the trend that they are most excited about. So Ritra, can we have the first audience poll, please? So that we can just get from the audience what they think. Yeah, so the poll is live. So if you can just select what is that one hospitality trend that you are most excited about. So the options are innovations in technology, environment-friendly design features and initiatives, unconventional out-of-the-box design aesthetics, or personalization of experiences. If you don't see an option in the poll, you can also use the chat box to share the trend that you're excited about. Yeah. All right, so we're going to reveal those answers in a bit. Now to kind of introduce you, of course, to introduce you to our expert for today. We have Rahul Shankhwalker. Hi, Rahul.
Hi, hi everyone.
So Rahul is a founding partner at Studio HBA. He has heralded a bouquet of hospitality projects in Asia and across the country. He graduated from the University of Goa with a bachelor's degree in architecture in '98. And the same year, he received a scholarship to pursue a master's from the University of Melbourne in Australia, and he graduated there in 2000. He then moved to Singapore in 2001 to work with Nikken Sake, and continued to work with them for 5 years on various luxury hotels, resorts, residential projects, high-rise developments throughout the Asia Pacific. He then moved back to Australia to set up a small boutique practice in Brisbane and collaborated with leading Australian practices to push the limits of design and achieve a significant design style for luxury residential and high-end resorts in not just in Australia, but across Asia as well. Rahul then joined HBA Singapore as a design director in 2007 and was made partner of HBA Global in 2012. So he's currently leading very talented teams in HBA's offices in Singapore, Mumbai, Delhi, and works significantly on master planning, architecture, interior design projects throughout Asia Pacific and Europe. And he has over 25 years of working experience building a significant body of work, which includes Conrad Hotel Bangalore, Raffles Resort Bali, Leela Kempinski Delhi, Medi Terre Boutique Hotel Israel, Australia 108 Residences Melbourne, Six Sense Spa, at the Wold One Towers Bombay, and Radisson Hotel Shimla. So we're so happy to have you, Rahul. Given your work experience, we are looking forward to have you share what you share some trends with us today. Yeah, take it away, Rahul.
Sneha, thank you very much for your extremely generous introduction. It's an honor to be here to speak with what I believe to be an incredibly talented lot of people. If you guys are okay, I'm going to share screen and speak about a few things. Should we start then? Just give me a second. Can you all see my screen?
Not yet, Rahul.
It's not visible. Okay, let me...
Not yet.
I need to hit the share screen, I suppose. Can you see
it's just loading now. Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
So are we ready to go?
Yes, Rahul, you can go ahead. Yeah.
Let me just close some of these things that we don't like. It's all over my screen. So like Sneha mentioned, I've been practicing architecture and within the space of architecture, hospitality design for over 25 years. And in great amount of honesty, I don't think I know to design anything other than hotels and resorts, and maybe a few residences here and there. But since I've graduated from school, hospitality is all that I have done, all that I have designed, and something that I have grown to be extremely passionate about and extremely involved with in not just designing hotels, but in a way contributing to what hospitality can be for today and that for the future. Now, no one can speak with any certainty of what hospitality can be in the future, but as they say, the past informs the future. So I'll start with a little story. So I was flying back from London, I think this was in 2017, 2018. And up until then, and even before that, I would get into a project, design a project, and make it look pretty from inside and outside, and really not think so much and great amount of detail how important a guest experience is, how important guest memories of those spaces are, and how important the transfer of those memories in terms of stories are. And I was in the lounge and I met this gentleman called MS Puri, and he turned out to be one of the major stalwarts in hospitality. And we got talking, and a statement he said to me really drove home. And he said, stories are social currencies. And I said, wow, that is beautiful. Stories are indeed social currencies, because these are mediums of transferring experiences. If you've had an experience, the only way you can tell it to your family, your loved ones, is through stories. And what are hotels at the end of the day? They are places where memories are created, experiences happen, and we all go back home and share these experiences in form of stories. And before that, I'd been my work takes me all over. We do projects in different parts of the world. And up until the pandemic, I would travel 6 months in a year, spend probably 1 or 2 nights in those 6 months in hotel rooms. And most of the hotels I stayed in were very beautiful, very modern in some cases, but they were also very sterile. And I got to think, people like me who travel so much on work, how do they see, how do they sort of blur the boundaries between leisure travel and business travel? And I happened to meet a friend of mine at a bar in a bar in Delhi, a few years back. And he had this beautiful property in Goa, the photograph that you're seeing on screen right now. For reasons of confidentiality, I won't name the hotel, but it's right at the mouth of the Mandavi River and the Arabian Ocean. And that's what you can see in the far background. Behind the hill in the background is the ocean, and in the foreground is the river. And an extremely powerful sight. And he said to me, what should I do with it? And I said, I'd love to write you a brand story. I'd like to write you a brand narrative from which would evolve an experiential hotel that would embody these abilities to create experiences, create narratives, and people go home with something to share. So with that, I'm going to get started. So I went back home with my team. The next day, we started brainstorming, and what would that be? And we approached the design of this brand creation from purely a third-party experience, in the sense that the hotel was a living person, and the hotel receives people, shares its story, and people take that back with them. And a hotel that would be ecologically sensitive, socially responsible, rooted in its neighborhood, and with a strong, meaningful community relationship, one that takes people from within the community, gives them basic training, and allows them to be a part of the hotel community, hotel staff, give them livelihood. And it just becomes something that is very meaningful to the community in which the hotel is, but also meaningful to the people who experience a very authentic, very real, very truthful experience. So I'm just going to quickly run through this. There's a lot to speak about. So the hotel, we break the experience down into pre-arrival, at hotel, and post-stay. Technology becomes the bridge between your pre-arrival, during your stay, and also after you've gone. Technology becomes the medium of creating a community that people will engage in even after you've left. I mean, imagine you going into a hotel where, no matter where your hotel is located, whether it's in the city, it's in the countryside, in the hills, there is so much happening around you in the neighborhood, whether in our case, there is fishing, there is farming, there are bars, there are restaurants, there are churches and temples buzzing with year-round activities in them. Why do we need to create anything specific for someone to enjoy? How does the hotel bring these into the experience of the guests? You don't really need. If you had to go for a ride on the river, why couldn't you just go on a ride with the fishing boats, see the river, catch fish, bring it back, it goes into the kitchen, a meal is prepared. So that level of authenticity, the hotel would be completely made in India, nothing imported, everything from within the geographical boundaries of the country. Use local materials, whether it's craftsmanship, whether it is local talent to run the hotel, everything. It's a made in India hotel. some images of the site, very lush, very green. It had roughly 300 coconut palms where the construction of the hotel didn't remove any one of these coconut trees. So the hotel sees itself in a league of its own, and a league of its own in the sense that, and I should have mentioned this in the beginning, and one of the significant shift in design paradigms for me has been in my 20-year career, probably for the last, I would say, 25-year career, for the last 18 to 20 years, I've strived to design buildings which are very heroic, which are very, in a way, has a presence where they sit. But in the last few years, I think that has kind of changed in the sense that I believe buildings need to be very simple, very non-stately envelopes for these experiences where architecture, landscape, and interior design, branding, your graphic design all come together to engage, to envelope people in an experience that is both memorable and worth talking about. So this building is well, obviously it's got walls and a roof and glass and all of that. But over time, we envisage that the buildings are going to get taken over by landscape, and in that way, they dematerialize themselves in a way that they don't exist anymore other than to give you the basic human protection that you're looking for from a building. How do you do that? A very simple section through the site, the Mandavi River on the far left, there's a road, and then the site kind of climbs up a fairly steep hill. And from the hill, all rooms get views out into the water, but there are some rooms that don't. And we were looking at means in which you could create maybe a body of water which can contribute both towards having, maybe it's a prawn culture farm. It could be something that grows plants, and it almost becomes like a pond in a forest that takes care of itself without water getting stagnated. So that's what it would eventually be like. In some of the rooms, engage this water and become part of that experience. Productive landscape, every plant, every tree, every shrub, and every bush that went here had a meaning. It had a contribution. It's a farm to table. So if you wanted something that had flowers with red color flowers, we replaced them with red color chilies. The slopes became places to grow pineapples, and there are indigenous pineapple species in Goa, or if there were garden walls, they became walls that produced herbs. And everything that went in here was grown here, goes back into the kitchen, and you produce food which is very honest, very meaningful, and very creative nonetheless. All our public spaces were greenhouses, or they are greenhouses, in the sense that even the buildings, when they are in a non-function mode, they are still nurturing something. They're nurturing life, they're nurturing a presence of a very sustainable future. And I believe that the moment you have greenery inside a building, your architecture really doesn't matter. It just makes things very pretty, very experiential, and very strong. Then we started looking at how you can take plants and put them in the most creative manner, as opposed to just hanging them on the wall, whether you hang them on the ceiling. How do you create surface area that will contribute to enlarging your production capabilities? How the buildings would sit very lightly on the ground, allow for movement of animals whose path this has been for probably many, many, many years. There's no reason for the building to break that. So the building started to raise above ground. then we started to look at what the form of these buildings could be so that they can be built very easily, very efficiently. But we need to keep in mind that Goa has a very brutal monsoon, salty air. So the choice of materials start to kind of limit themselves. But what you see here is what eventually we want to create, a building that is completely sort of engulfed with nature, becomes one with nature, and over time, it just kind of disappears. The banquet rooms would also be an extension of that greenhouse that I'm talking to you about. The spa is a very unique experience in the sense that it is not a building. A building does not exist. It's a spa which is within the grounds of the estate in very private spaces. We were looking at buying one of these old fishing trawlers, retrofit them. It becomes a spa experience. You can go out into the water and you can have your spa treatment. But these spa spaces are also multiplicitous in the sense that in the evenings, or you can see how you can have a spa treatment without a room. But in the evenings, these become alternative dining experiences. They're food and beverage experiences that you can create your own menus with the chef. You can learn how to cook it, but you can also choose where you want to have your quiet, romantic, or a boisterous dinner with your friends and family. So you see how we are starting to look at spaces in a way that would traditionally need a building to function those spaces, operate those spaces, but you could do it without a building, or a staircase which kind of gently falls through the landscape without it killing the natural sort of gradient of the land or the flora and fauna that grows in it. So it's a very uncurated landscape, so to speak. And once you've done this, the architecture doesn't really need to be much. They're just straight walls and a roof and opening, which nature becomes the bedhead of your room, and just very tastefully put together objects that become a part of that memory system that I was talking about. We looked at how to create branding collaterals. For instance, this is everything that we're designing. If it's soap case, what happens if the cover of the soap case is actually a map of the neighborhood? Generally, when you go to a hotel, you open the soap case, you throw the paper or the plastic out. We were thinking, how can this become more than that? And you have a map on it, for example, which kind of traces the neighborhood trails. It takes you down to the market. It takes you down to the taverns and the bars. And it's something that you might even put in your scrapbook. And you think twice before you throw it out. How do you use, let's say, wood from coconut to make beautiful pens that you can take back with you? Generally, when you go to a hotel room, the pens are really flimsy. You really don't want to take it back with you. I'm a passionate collector of fountain pens. Therefore, you see a fountain pen here. But it may not be a fountain pen. It could be a pencil. It could be a ballpoint pen, but something that's very tactile, something that has a sense of place to it, and it belongs here. Then we look at what kind of bags you might have. A laundry bag that also becomes your beach bag, or a grass woven hat that you take when you go to the beach. How do you do simple ways of refilling your shampoo bottles? And they're very clear glass bottles with neat labels on it, and a scent that is created specifically for this property. No bottled water. It's all water that is filled out of an RO system, neatly sealed, put in your room. So a very deep sort of understanding of techniques, printing, and how that can come back into a guest experience. We look at creating signage, which is a part of the architectural facade, whether it is embossed or debossed. but shadows would play a very integral part in animating and making them present and visible. We look at uniforms. One of the things that drives me nuts when I go to places across the country is the uniforms that staff have. Why can't you have uniforms that people feel stylish, comfortable, and it's not very hot and grumpy in it, but uniforms which are very subtle style statements, and what kind of textiles that could be used in it, and how you do that. And transport, I love the ambassadors, hence the image. So let's talk about how this translates into a build form, right? And obviously a lot of these soft touches may not be visible in what I'm showing you, but nonetheless, so that's the reception. The reception is nothing but a living room. It's a place where people will gather in the evening, or your check-in happens even before you get to the hotel. You don't really need a reception. The little hole in the wall at the back, and you can see there are retail components to it, which is stuff that goes in the hotel, can be sold in here. You can buy the fabrics, you can buy the cushion covers, you can take it back with you. But the barman can check you in, and he can also service the F&B outing on the other side. That's the large master plan. Number 4 is the reception block with the all-day dining, and then a train of rooms of different categories. And number 16 is the hilltop bar, grill, some of the planning. So this is the all-day dining. As you can see, it's completely transparent. It does not have a wall, but it does have rain protection that is built in the form of simple roller shutters that you see in shop fronts, for example. And all around you is a lake full of productive landscape. There are mangoes, there are chicus, there are bananas, you name it. That's one of the guest rooms that float on the lake. That's another view of the all-day dining. And this is what I was talking about. If you see these, I'm going to mark here so you can understand. So you see, this is the rain protection system that can kind of fold down and close it. And it runs on hydraulic system. So really the architecture is very simple. It's really most, I don't know why I can't get rid of that. So I don't know why I can't get rid of these red lines. Okay. That's a layout of the swimming pool, which is right on the top of the cliff with an infinity edge looking at the Mandovi River and the ocean. And the pool also becomes, the pool in the daytime, the furniture in the pool becomes a part of the dining experience, of the grill at night. So nothing is duplicated. Everything has multiple functions to it. Yeah. That's the grill. And you can see the water in the far background. That's the presidential suite. Again, it's on a sloping land, and the living room is all open on all sides, an outdoor dining, a dip pool. You go into your guest bedroom, and a bathroom that is fully aligned to the ocean. So that's what the room looks like. That's the living room, the master bedroom. And again, all materials here are very simple materials. Plaster and paint, it's terrazzo floor. We put in obviously a lot of effort in designing furniture in a way that is durable in the high wear and tear of a hospitality scenario. And in the far background, you can see the bathroom, and behind the bathroom, when you're washing your face, you look out into the garden again. So there's always a visual presence, a connection with the landscape around you. That's the bathroom, looking out into the views. This is your standard room that you would have. And while The built-up area of the room and the bathroom is roughly 29 square meters. Each of them comes with a fairly large veranda, which doubles up as your outdoor living space with an outdoor bathtub and one tree, which we believe is going to be a mango tree, a Goan Mankarad mangoes, which over time you can pluck from your own veranda during season time, but it also gives you privacy from the next door neighbor. That's what the room looks like. This is a view looking into the room from the veranda. That's the bathtub on the far right side. But even here, there's no reason why you couldn't introduce landscape that becomes productive. And if not anything, then it just makes the space look really beautiful. And the bed head opens up to a view of the garden behind. And just by making the back and the front transparent, you increase the visual volume of that space. That's the bathroom. This is a garden suite, which is interconnecting, but it's a one bedroom and living room kind of space. We keep the ceilings raw concrete. No, not touching that. That's the bathroom. And that brings me to the end of my talk. And I will be open for questions, if any.
Thanks so much, Rahul. I think that was quite insightful, and it was so lovely to see. This is something that I mentioned earlier as well. It's so lovely to see so much lush greenery, not just surrounding, but you try to kind of bring it indoors too. But it seemed like a very seamless experience, even when you were taking us through the elevations. It was nice to see that kind of that process of bringing the indoors in, bringing the outdoors in. So thank you so much for that really insightful presentation. I was taking a lot of notes as I went along. I just wanted to, so before we actually, of course, people who are listening in, viewers who are listening in, please feel free to drop your comments and drop your questions in the chat box. I'll do my best to get as many questions answered by Rahul and Shyam, who's also joining us, as possible. I also want to make a quick introduction to Shyam Motwani. Hi, Shyam. Thank you so much for joining us today. So Shyam is the EVP and business head at Godrej Locks and Architectural Fittings and Systems, which is a business division of the Godrej & Boyce Manufacturing Company Limited. Over the past 3 decades, he has spearheaded important roles with the group. Under his leadership, the Locks division has built an extraordinary product portfolio and shown impressive financial performance, which has been validated through various awards, such as the prestigious CII Business Excellence Award for the year 2014. We're so glad to have Shyam join us as well, because I'm sure as a business leader and as a I'm sure an ardent traveler as well, he will have a lot to share too. So before we actually get down to our Q&A, our quick discussion, remember the first poll that we opened out to everyone. Rudra, can we please reveal the results of that poll? Okay, so oh, this is interesting. So a lot of people, and I think this is also in tune with what Rahul's talked about as well. So interestingly, environmental friendly design features and initiatives seem to be ruling the roost from the hospitality trends, followed by innovations in technology, followed by personalization of experiences, and lastly, out-of-the-box design initiatives. So Rahul, what do you think about what you see in front of you in terms of the poll results? Are they in tune with your design language and the kind of language that you're incorporating in the project that you shared with us too?
Oh, 1 second, I lost that. Where can I see that again?
Yeah, so I'll share it with you, no problem. So so the options that the viewers had were innovations in technology, environment-friendly design features, unconventional out-of-the-box design aesthetics, and personalization of experiences. So a whopping 37% said, they're excited about environmental-friendly design features, followed by innovations in tech, and then personalization of experiences is what they are most excited about.
Yeah. I think that's very aligned to the way I look at hospitality and travel. I think the need of the hour is to conserve the limited resources we have. And I also believe that inherently no material on its own is ugly or pretty. Every material has an inherent beauty to it. And as designers, we need to push our own creative limits to see how you can use these materials. For example, plaster, you can just apply it flat and paint over it, or you can scrub it down and reveal its grains and it changes its appearance. So it all depends on how you look at things, but your choice of materials is a starting point for making your building eco-friendly. If you start importing stuff from far corners of the world to build a project in India, you're increasing your carbon footprint. And I think whatever choice of materials you make determines how eco-friendly your building is going to be, because the further it is, the more uneco-friendly that is. And like I said in my presentation, over the years, we've made it a very conscious decision to never, or I wouldn't say never, that would be incorrect, but limit as far as possible the choice of materials within the geographical boundaries of where we work. And like I said, the project I just showed you is a completely made in India project, and everything and anything in there. There's nothing in there that comes imported. It's also, if you were to choose landscape in a way that you're dealing with indigenous plants that are native to where you are designing, its consumption of water decreases significantly, right? It's not like you need, for example, let's take a chiku tree. It's very, very robust, and it's very beautiful in the way it spreads itself. Very nice sculptural leaves and very small ones. It all depends on what you choose to put in there. But if you were to go and get a plant that grows in a non-tropical part of the world and try and grow it here, it's going to have an adjustment period, consumption of water. So all your choices determine how eco-friendly your buildings will be. But what is really important to me, and I think which got probably the least grading, is experience. And I think there is nothing more powerful than a beautiful experience and a beautiful story to tell. And technology, eco-friendly, everything else is all great, but they all contribute to a human experience. And for me, that is one of the most powerful things a building can evoke, is a memorable experience, something to go back and tell your friends that, hey, I stayed in this hotel, but there was no building. It was all covered with landscape, but I didn't get wet in the rain, or I didn't get scorched by the sun. I think that would be a beautiful thing to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Shyam, thanks so much again for joining us. I wanted to hear from you. I think from both, as a traveler as well as a business leader, is there any trend that excites you? So when we put out the poll, right, we chose those 4 trends purely because from our research and even from our conversations with Rahul, right, I think it just made sense, for us to highlight those 4 trends. But from your perspective, what is the one trend that excites you as both a traveler as well as a hospitality, as well as a business leader?
So first and foremost, I want to compliment architect Rahul for a lovely presentation. Very insightful and very informative and instructive as far as I'm concerned. So thank you, architect Rahul, for that. So as a traveler, it all depends on whether I'm involving myself in my regular business travel or travel for the sake of my annual leisure and de-stressing along with my family. So when it comes to being a business traveler, I personally think, given that we are always challenged for time and time challenged, I think, easy, trouble-free, hassle-free access into the hotel, into the elevator, and into the room is something that, I value the most. And of course, making sure that, none of the stuff that surrounds me, including the room that I live in, is intimidating. It has to be very friendly. It has to be, in a way, engaging me as a business traveler. It allows me to find certain important, spaces within the hotel that interest me. Whether it is the, the specialty restaurant that I would like to try something special, in the night time during dinner.
Yeah.
Or for that matter, a place that I can go and quietly read something and spend some time, quality time, catching up on some of my reading, not in my room, and many such things. So I think simplicity, non-intimidating, easy access, easy ingress, and very, very friendly and engaging is what my expectations are, and I think that's how I look at it as a business traveler.
Right, right. I think it concurs with what Rahul also was explaining through the hospitality project design that that he just took us through. There is so much of I think there's so much of thoughtful emphasis on creating personalizable experiences in spaces that can be multi-purpose. So I love the fact that Rahul also talked about these spaces that is part spa plus dining experiences too, which is so interesting because I think as travel becomes a
Neha, can't hear you. Sneha?
Sorry, I think Sneha's video's gotten stuck a little bit, but we'll just give her a couple of minutes so she could come back to us. In this day and time of technology, we're all suffering from these challenges. So while Sneha comes back, maybe what we can do right now is I'll let her kind of complete her train of thought when she gets back. But maybe we could get the second audience poll, which is quite interesting for this moment. If we could have that. It also talks about just the idea of what people are looking at and what are their challenges. So what are the biggest challenges faced while planning and designing hospitality projects? And the options that we came across were what we put together from popular choices was realizing an Instagram look, where today everyone's talking about creating photographs and creating photographing memories, or meeting sustainability standards, restrictions of space that limit design explorations, or designing the back of house. So it will be interesting to see how people are faring. And I'd actually be curious to ask Rahul and Shyam to, I know you can't officially respond to it, but if you could also share your thoughts on this. And meanwhile, we've got Sneha back. Welcome.
Hi, sorry about that. I just lost network in between my long conversation. Yeah, but please continue.
No, so while you were away, we thought we'd just initiate the next audience poll and see, because it was quite apt to bring it in over here. So maybe we can just give it a couple of seconds longer for people to respond and then come back to the conversation.
Sure.
And what I was also curious to know was how Shyam and Rahul would respond to the same question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we have our results, then we could probably pull them up. But Rahul, would you like to tell us how you would respond to that? Oh, that's interesting.
The biggest challenges faced while planning and designing hospitality projects, in my opinion, none of these. It's just managing expectations.
That's true.
Because any one of these are, to me, not a challenge, it's an opportunity. I believe that bigger the challenge, more creative the solution. So if someone wants designing a back of house and there's limited amount of space, it is a challenge to think differently of how you can multitask the back of house, right? So and many years back when I worked with Nikin Sikhe, my boss then, Wong Chuman, would often say this, and it's sort of written into my DNA. He says there are no challenges, there are just opportunities for better design. So but if I were to pick one of these, I would say restrictions of space that limit design explorations. Yeah, that would be more like it.
So are you being able to see the results? Because interestingly, we've got 57% of the audience that feels meeting sustainable standards is the biggest challenge. And then everything else kind of falls short after that, saying restriction of space is at 37. Designing back of house is actually 24. So 1/4 of our audience actually finds that's a challenge. And 15% are looking for or feel that an Instagrammable look is what they're facing. Interesting. It's always fascinating to get people's opinions and their perspectives on this. But I'm going to allow Sneha to get back to the main conversation and to kind of come back to the point that you were making, Sneha.
Thanks so much, Mrinali, for taking over while I was trying to connect. Thank you so much. I think let's talk about, I think since we're talking about sustainability, I think let's talk about, how, I mean, going by that, can hospitality really be sustainable? Can it really be environmental friendly? I think it'd be great to hear both of your opinions here, because I think, Rahul, with this project also that we're talking about, I think there is an effort to be very conscious about not just, space design, but also choice of materials and kind of taking that conversation from design to consumption, very consciously. So I want to understand, can hospitality as an industry really be sustainable? So maybe, Sham, if you want to comment here first, and then Rahul can, of course, continue.
I think clearly today, sustainability, is one of the topmost priorities for any industry sector, and the 3P concept works everywhere. So it is people, planet, and then the organization. So I think, materials which are biodegradable, carbon neutral, things that can help us conserve resources which are limited in nature, such as water and some water saving, techniques that one can think about, preventing wastage, many other things, eliminating plastic as much as we can. All of this, I think, is much needed and highly doable. And I think it calls for firm commitment. And according to me, I think there must be some manner in which the future of design is dictated by, if not mandated by, a self-regulating body, like in the advertising world, to have focus on sustainability. And I go with the audience poll insofar as my first choice of challenges in designing is concerned. And I think that should be something which is self-regulated by the industry, and we should take responsibility for sustainability as a key priority insofar as designing hospitality spaces is concerned.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Rahul, what about your thoughts?
I think, sustainability and design is the same relationship as a human body and health, right? If you were to say, oh, I will only take care of my body when a breakdown happens, and then I will eat healthy and I'll do exercise. But if you were to make that a regular choice, your chances of a breakdown are not that it's 0%, but you're reducing the probability of it. The same thing with design and sustainability. you have to think about sustainability the day you draw your line. Sustainability is about choices, right? It's the choices we make. If you make wrong choices, you are compromising sustainability. If you make the right choices, you won't. Now, there is nothing like a building and zero impact. Does not work. Every building has an environmental impact. And as designers, what we need to do is how you audit that impact to bring it down to its bare minimum. Construction inherently is not a sustainable activity, but it's required. And I believe that any building, whether it's an airport, it's an office building or a hotel, can be sustainable. But you need to think about it when you draw the first line. What does that line mean? Where is the material? Because that line means something in your building, and where is that something coming from? And if you were to keep these simple principles in mind, I think you would have made some very important environmental choices. And then, of course, there's other things that Sham was talking about of harvesting rainwater, catching the solar, catching the wind. And all of these need to be a part of the building ecosystem, the designing ecosystem. And unfortunately, India is not there yet. And I would love to see every roof having filled with solar panels, right, to generate electricity. And it's not that those decisions are not very far away. Like you see up to 2 years back, how many electrical vehicles you saw on the road? And you see how many green number plates you see today, right? So people's choices are changing. And as designers, I think the choice you make when you draw the first line determines how eco-friendly or not your building will be, or what those choices are.
I think absolutely. I think that's such an important point that you made there, because like I can tell you from my own experience that whenever I of course only now has my travel kind of been reinstated, but yeah, I think I'm really conscious. I think given the pandemic, the learnings and unlearnings that happened during the pandemic, I'm very conscious about the stay that I choose, purely from the level of, okay, is that hotel where is that hotel located, how green is the surrounding, or does a hotel allow me to do certain things that other hotels might not allow me to do, or can I be at peace with myself in a room, or in a space where I can work peacefully, because I usually now travel for work. So I think what I'm coming to is, I think I feel it's important for hospitality or a designer or an architect, or whenever you're planning project, it's important to also prioritize self-care and the need for self-care, because people are, and like you said, Rahul, people are escaping or moving away from home to create memories that are memorable, whether it's for themselves, whether they're prioritizing themselves, or they're prioritizing their family. So I just wanted to ask you also, in terms of how do you ensure that you create spaces that allow people to interact with each other too? Because one of the most important experiences that emerged post-pandemic was we lost the ability to socialize, in a physical space. So is that something that you think about, when you take on a hospitality project? Like, how do you encourage, meaningful interaction between people, between family members, or between people who want to meet new people? So is that something that is something that you consciously think about when you design your projects?
It's a very, very nice question, actually. It's one of the things that hotels do is, while you go to have a good time, but it also isolates people. It's not like a traveler's hostel where people are all sort of hanging out in a public area because you're sleeping in a bunk bed. And I have not, I'll be very honest, haven't been able to do this successfully myself, because I haven't had an opportunity to design a project like that. But there are hotels in the world that I've stayed in. For example, the Hoxton in London, in Holborn, it's almost, I would say, actually it didn't start with with the Hoxton. It started with a brand called Ace Hotels, which started in Washington State. What they did is it converted all its public areas into multiplicitous usage spaces, right? During breakfast time, it's a breakfast to the in-house guests. Between breakfast and lunch, it became a cafe that extended into a co-working space. It brought people from the street in, not just the guests. The guests could go and sleep in the rooms. In the evening, the cafe became a bar, and the public areas became where people from other offices around came to hang out and have a drink. Now, that is beautiful because that not engages, but it supports interaction. It supports strangers meeting strangers and talking about things that may be common or not common. Now, it is done. I haven't had the opportunity to do that, but I'd love to. And I'd love for more hotels to be more democratic, more inclusive, and more sort of, I would say, this bumping of people happening in its spaces. And it is doable. It is doable, but not many projects that we have worked on, especially in India, have had that kind of a mindset yet.
Yeah. I agree to a certain extent that I think in India, what is also interesting to see that there is a while I think people are kind of observing that yes, there is need for interaction. What is also interesting to see that people are also, I mean this may be a converse point also to a certain extent. How technology plays a huge role in amplifying that luxurious experience in a hotel, right? So I think Shyam, maybe you would be the best person to comment here, since you are a business leader working for a tech-enabled brand. What is your thought on this whole experience of digitizing things that need limited interaction with the staff? So whether it's billing, whether it comes to booking room service, everything, things that where you don't have to pick up the phone to place an order, or pick up the phone to get something that you want. It's becoming increasingly tech enabled. So I wanted to understand if you believe that a smart tech enabled experience at a hotel, or even a restaurant for that matter, because now restaurants are doing this too, where you can just scan a barcode and you get access to the menu and you can place an order without having to interact with the waiter. So do you think that such a tech-enabled experience is luxury? Should it define luxury, or should it be what Rahul said, that it should enable some sort of human interaction too, that is personalizable, that is customizable? What are your thoughts here, Shyam?
No, as I said from the very beginning, sometimes high tech can become very intimidating.
I agree.
Yeah. And may be a big put off so far as I'm concerned, even if we are pretty much tech savvy and tech seeking individuals. So I completely agree with architect Rahul. I was in fact wondering in my mind, as you were talking a little while ago, and Rahul was also talking about the manner in which spaces actually double as multi-utility spaces through the course of the day. I was just wondering, why wouldn't a hotel let me know, keeping aside the tech enablement and the ability to do a seamless check-in without any human interaction, self-checkout, and then of course, settling the hotel bill. But aside from all of that, part of it is okay. But aside from all of that, I was just wondering that in this technology-enabled world that we are living in, why wouldn't a hotel, especially a business hotel that I return back to almost very often, let me know on the day of arrival or before the day of arrival that during the days that you're going to be with us, following profiles of guests may interest you.
Yeah.
Who are going to be living with us.
Yeah.
And maybe you would want to plan a networking engagement with them over high tea, over the the happy hours in the bar, or over breakfast in the morning when you're kind of rushing into the restaurant, but you want to definitely meet with like-minded people. I would definitely love to know, if there's somebody I would want to interact with, and he is or she is going to be in the hotel during the time when I am staying there, for the sake of just knowing each other.
Yeah.
And in
That's
this
amazing.
day and
I would
age,
sign up.
there is nothing which is said to be very private, very confidential. In fact, it is now becoming increasingly clear that collaboration is what will get you there. So I
Yeah.
think I would love to see hotels actually using machine learning and artificial intelligence over a period of time through multiple data points that they would have created in their database to help guests know like-minded individuals in terms of profile who I would be interested in meeting with and engaging with in any manner during the course of my stay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I cannot, for the sake of me, I cannot ever think that we would want to have robots to be helping us navigate our stay in the hotel and would have no human interaction. I think we are
Yeah.
social animals. We've seen what's happened to us during the pandemic when we were asked to maintain social distancing. We lost a lot of the social contact, and now we are seeking social contact like there was no tomorrow. So I think I would
I
never
think
see
that's fabulous.
I would never see myself in any hotel which is purely tech and there is no human interaction possible. Not for anything that one would want to put your money on.
I agree. I agree with Sham said. I think he really nailed it with that one. And what I hear from what Sham is saying is something that resonates with me. Technology needs to do two things. One is, of course, make life easy. Like imagine life without Zomato these days, right? You're hungry, you don't want to cook. 20 minutes to have food at home. That's great. It makes my life easy.
Swiggy.
Yeah. So, but the other thing technology needs to do is not isolate people, but bring them together. And
Absolutely.
and these two functions are important for technology, is to really bring humans together, not isolate them, and not in a way that I love technology where I don't have to, I reach a hotel. I'm sure you'd agree with me. Sometimes you probably land up at a hotel in a strange city at 11 o'clock at night, and the reception is fumbling to check you in. All you want to do is go to bed, right? And he needs to scan your passport and this and fill a form. All of that, cut the crap, right? Why couldn't I be just checked in through technology?
Walk into your room.
As soon as I land at the airport in the plane, press a few buttons, you're done. Upload your Aadhaar or your passport, whatever, and you go straight to the room. And I'm sure Godrej has this in their repertoire, but I've stayed in hotels where you don't need a key card. You can do it with a QR scanner on your phone.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. So technology needs to make life easy, but it also needs to bring people together and not isolate them. So therefore, to me, having a barcode scanner to see the menu is a complete waste of time. I would much rather talk to a waiter who would tell me a story about this dish that is in it. He will tell me that it comes from the chef's grandmother or from wherever it is. I love to hear the stories. It just makes it feel that much more delicious, even if it's not. It makes it memorable, and that can't happen through technology.
Absolutely.
I'm so glad that I think Sham, the idea that you suggested was so brilliant because as business travelers travel, most of the time they spend in meetings outside. So this gives them an opportunity. I mean, it's a win-win for the hotel as well as for the traveler, right? And plus you are also, and even what Rahul suggested, right? You don't need to show your documents again and again, sign it again and again, spend so much time. If you stayed in that hotel multiple times, travelers love to be rewarded for loyalty, so why not give them that impetus, to say that, oh, I experienced this, I don't have to check in again and again because, I've experienced this as a hotel. It's seamless, so I think that makes sense. And I think again boils down to what both of you highlighted so well, that human interaction, and even as designers and leaders of design brands, it's so important to keep observing these little behaviors in travelers. And I must commend you, Rahul, when I saw that you paid special attention to branding and the extension of that project branding. I think it was music to my ears as a branding and marcom specialist who has worked on similar projects. So, like, I remember working on a hospitality project for a real estate brand. There was so much, detail that goes into extending the design experience onto the different elements. Like, even when you talked about uniforms and talked about how the bottles need to be, I think that's so important for architects and designers to have that conversation, with the owners and say, you know what, this is how the design or the experience of that hotel should be translated to every single detail, and that itself, that is what luxury is. That is what you need to give that experience, reward your travelers with that experience, one detail off, and the travelers, they will notice it, patrons will notice this. So I'm so glad you talked about that. And if you can just maybe tell the designers here too, what are the details that you need to look out for, or you need to account for, when you do a hospitality project. And maybe Sham, you can add in here too, from a tech and finish perspective as well. Yeah.
I'm sure all the architects and designers on this conversation will agree to me that you never see anything in space in isolation. You do not see interior design separately, or the couch separately, or the window separately, or the architecture separately. In your line of vision, they're all layered and overlapped, right? So they're all layered and overlapped. Now imagine you have a beautiful vanity counter, but ugly plastic bottles or tubes to dispense your soap and shampoos and all of that, and badly packaged, ugly packaging, ugly branding. It just changes the way you look at that beautiful bathroom. It does. Honestly, it does. Me, it does. Or if you have a beautiful table where you want to work in your hotel room and you have very ugly stationery, very unthoughtful pens, it changes. One of the layers in the multiple layers in your vision is slightly flawed. And I think it doesn't mean that everything has to be so curated and so perfectly layered in a way that it becomes intimidating. It just needs to be pretty. It just needs to be thought through. It just needs to be there. And therefore, everything matters. What goes into the room matters. What kind of slippers you wear to the bathroom matters. And what kind of bag you put your laundry in matters. And whether that bag can be taken to the beach as a beach bag. It matters. It tells your guests that we think about small things, and we've thought about things even before you thought that you need them. And that to me is luxury. Luxury is not imported furniture or big chandelier. To me, luxury is when you can sit up on a couch with folded legs and just enjoy the flow of time. And with that in mind, I think everything needs a certain level of thought and integration. And some hotels we're able to do it, and some hotels we're not. It's just the nature of the beast. But where we can, we try.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, Sham, what are your thoughts here, in terms of, creating a luxury experience through finishes, through materiality?
Well, I think, you don't have to be ostentatious. Yeah. You don't have to be suggesting opulence by using materials and other stuff that suggests and connotes luxury. There are very subtle ways of doing things. And I think less is more as far as I'm concerned. And for that, I think, it all depends on what is my concept of luxury versus somebody else's concept of luxury. For me, safety is luxury, if you ask me.
Yeah.
I fear for me and my family when we travel about unsafe spaces within the hotel, unsafe spaces within the room, narrow aisle spaces which can make you trip as you're moving from your washroom into your bed, unsafe flooring which can let you have a fall in the washroom, unsafe shower area where you could because the surface is wet, you could slip and you can trip. So for me, safety is luxury. And for me, there is nothing more important than having a very, very safe environment, physical environment that I want to be spending a few days in. So that becomes luxury. It's my concept of luxury. So opulence, rich material, expensive stuff is not luxury. For me, eliminating plastic water bottles from the room is luxury.
I agree. Yeah.
I want to see all hotels in India and abroad not serving any bottled water in a plastic bottle.
I agree.
Because it is poison.
Yeah.
I don't want to fall ill every time I travel by drinking bottled water in a plastic material. I want to find myself having some clean, hygienic glass bottles which I can refill on the floor I live.
Yeah.
There must be a quiet corner in which I can go and refill my glass bottles. So I want to see elimination of plastic. I want to see safety, and I want to see some minimalistic approaches to design, which kind of for me is wow and luxury.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, on that note, I completely agree. Safety is a luxurious experience. As long as I feel comfortable in a space and that space makes me feel like home, however new or however unusual or however, welcoming. As long as it makes me feel like home and feel safe, it's luxury to me. Yeah, that completely makes sense. I think this is a good opportunity now to move to some audience questions. I can see quite a few audience questions coming in, so I'm trying to accommodate. I will try to accommodate as much as possible. So there's an architect, Venkatesh, who asked, post-pandemic, how much of ergonomics, material usage has become more important versus lavishness of space, light, ventilation? I know that we covered it slightly, but it'd be great to talk about ergonomics and material usage a little bit. So maybe, Shyam, do you want to take this first? How much of ergonomics, material usage has become more important versus lavishness of space, light, and ventilation?
Very important. I couldn't agree with the gentleman who's asked this question or the lady who's asked this question. Ergonomics is becoming extremely important. And is extremely important because again, the focus is on mindfulness, on health. So the chair that I have to sit on in my hotel room has to have the right profile to support my back, and the seat on which I sit in has to support the lower part of my body quite well.
Yeah.
The material that they use for the chair should not lead any kind of skin contact that can cause irritation and skin rashes.
Yeah.
And of course, the bed that I sleep on, I dislike beds which are spring driven and less of hard material that is fiber plus any other fillers that can make the bed hard to support my back for the next 7 hours that I'm on the bed. Similarly, the various other things. I think ergonomics is very important in this day and age, and we definitely, I would definitely want to pay more attention to that than just things that signal very, very rich and expensive use of materials and objects or whatever that connotes luxury.
Yeah, absolutely. Rahul, what about you? In terms of the choice of materials that you make, like I'm sure ergonomics is something that you deeply consider, especially when you're designing mindful projects like the one you just showed us. Can you take us through what your process is like there?
I think pandemic or not, ergonomics are important. The piece of furniture, the bed, chair, whatever you call it, is in intimate contact with your body. It contributes to your comfort or discomfort, for that matter. And I think it's a non-negotiable. And
Yeah.
I don't fully understand the question in terms of its relevance to the pandemic, but irrespective, ergonomics is everything in furniture. Without ergonomics, you may as well not use the chair, sit on the floor. Right? Yeah, that's my 2 cents worth.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I think that makes sense that, it should be a non-negotiable no matter what kind of project that you design, and more so with hospitality. The next question is specifically for Rahul. It's from Shresh Gupta. He says, hi, Rahul. Thank you so much for the beautiful presentation. Since most of the design elements and detailing is done to enhance the user experience, do you use any methods of quantification of the user experience or any post-occupancy analysis that is done to inform future design decisions? I guess this is a more research-centric thing. Yeah.
Honestly, no, we don't. I think you just rely on guest feedback. Honestly, there's no way to quantify someone's personal experiences. And I think if someone's gone home happy, he hasn't written a bad complaint, I think you've already crossed that milestone. No, to answer your question, no, we haven't really quantified it. You just measure that with the lack or a furor of complaints, I suppose.
Right. So does your process involve talking to a lot of guests who have stayed at maybe that owner's hotel or similar hotels, or is it just purely research driven through previous projects?
It's an ongoing. It's like
Yeah.
trying to predict trends is an ongoing
Yeah.
thing. It's you can't just say, okay, मैं Monday को उठ के देखूंगा आज क्या trend है. It's not like that.
That's true.
It's a
Yeah.
constant dialogue. It's a constant dialogue, both based on your experiences, your family's, friends' experiences, and random people's experiences. And given that we are in a small part of the hospitality industry, which is only to do with designing, we are in constant touch with people from within that industry. So that dialogue is an ever evolving dialogue, and you make either mental notes, you write it down somewhere and see how you can address that in your next project, in a way that, again, hospitality is not one formula fits all, right? If you have a 100-room hotel, you'd have thousands of people staying in that hotel through the course of the year. And you need to understand, you can't make everybody happy. You cannot make everybody happy in this world, and you can't design for everybody. So eventually, you often design for a small community that you feel is like-minded like yourself.
Yeah.
And in a 100-room hotel, you'll be surprised how many people think like you. The people who don't think like you will go and stay in something else, maybe the JW Marriott, I don't know.
Or they just embrace it as a new experience and go with it.
Experience,
yeah, absolutely. If there are any questions, viewers, people who are here today, please feel free to share. So there's one more. So a lot of people have commented on your presentation, Rahul, and they really thought that the hotel was lovely and the project and the location that you've chosen is brilliant. So Anushka Shetty says, lovely hotel. However, how does one make sure insects and birds don't bother guests? Also, how are the rooms air conditioned, considering it gets very hot in Goa?
The rooms are air conditioned, just that you don't see it in the render because the grills are all very neatly concealed. Yes, they are air conditioned.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a matter of, I'll give you an example. If any one of us, any one of you have been to Bali, the indigenous architecture of Bali are compounded houses. And these houses are beautiful in the sense that they're not integrated. It's not one house. There's a compound, bedrooms are separated, living rooms are separated. When you go from one room to the other, you walk through the garden. Now, what happens when it rains? You just pick up an umbrella, walk from here to there, and then what that does is you've accepted that, okay, nature has a certain presence and we live with it. Now, that does not mean that you allow anything and everything to come into the room. What you didn't see in those renders is there's a very neat system of sliding, what do you call that, insect blinds, which are integrated with the glazing, that you can't see it because we don't want to see it. It's there, but it's not there. Also, the moment I'm from Goa, I was born and raised in Goa, and I live in Goa, and I work from Goa. One of the things about Goa is that if you cross-ventilate your room, right, if you allow air to come in from this window, go in from the other, any time of the year, your room can be very cool. And if you see in those 3Ds, they're all cross-ventilated rooms. It's a very simple air movement thing, right? And that's the principles we're working on. Now, if someone wants to keep it open, is okay with the insects, you leave them open. Yeah. If someone has a problem with the birds and the insects, you close the screen, put your AC on. Someone might say, hey, I don't want the AC, this beautiful sea breeze at night. I'm going to leave my front window and the back window open and enjoy the breeze like I'm sleeping in a tent. Now, if any of us have been to African safaris and stayed in some of the safari lodges, it's a part of it. You can't go there and say, hey, sorry, man, insects are a big problem. You are in the middle of nature, you deal with it. But that being said, different strokes for different folks. And yes, there is AC. There are thoughts for people who have a problem with insects. There are screens and blinds on it, and so forth. Yeah. And there is that same room is there for the more adventurous people like me who leave the door open at night and go to sleep with a cross-ventilated room.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks so much, Rahul and Sham. I think before we kind of end, that's my alarm going off. Sorry. So before we end the session, for all our viewers today, there is a feedback form regarding this masterclass. It'd be great if you can share your feedback because we keep planning these sessions every month. Thank you so much, Rahul and Sham. I think for me as a design enthusiast, not so much a practitioner, but an enthusiast, it's so much learning, especially from the fact that, design, especially for hospitality, can be a storytelling experience. I think once you look at it that way, the whole process gets a lot more nuanced and a lot more empathic. So I think for me, that's been an important learning. And plus, I really am on board with Sham's idea of building a kind of networking feature, a networking kind of service, especially for business travelers. I think that's a fabulous idea, and I'm hoping to see that hotels kind of are listening. I think if someone from the hotel industry is listening, I'm sure that they'll be able to incorporate this in some way. So it'll be great for everyone to please share your feedback with us. Tell us how you liked, what you liked about the session and what you'd like to see in the future. And Mrinalini and me will be more than happy to consider and curate something like this for you. We hope you enjoyed this session. We hope you learned as much as we did. Thank you so much again, Rahul and Sham. And
Thank you, Sneha. Thank you, Mrinalini. I just wanted to sheer inquisitiveness, and I saw one of the members of the audience also asking a question. I don't know whether it was still there in the chat box to Architect Rahul, but I certainly would want to ask that question to Architect Rahul. Is this property in Goa is already ready, or is it under construction, or is going to get into under construction now?
It's far progressed in construction. It's not open yet. It will be open, I would say, by by the next season, not this season, not season of 2022, but 2023. And I'm very proud to say that whatever I've shown you today is exactly what it is going to be, because of a shared commitment between the owners and us to do that. And as soon as it's open, I'm sure you will hear about it in media, but I will let Sneha know, and she will let everyone else know.
Yeah, because I travel to Goa every month because I have my factories located in Goa.
Yeah.
And I definitely would want to be very, very keen to know as and when the property is up and running. Was very impressed with the work that you've done, architect, over there.
Thank you so much. And I will let you know personally when it's ready.
Many thanks. Many thanks.
Thank you.
And congratulations to you again.
Thank you.
For this wonderful presentation and for this beautiful project that you have put in place. And I'm sure it will be one of the best that Goa has to offer over a period of time.
Shyam, it's been an absolute honor to share this space with you.
Thank you.
I can't claim to say I'm a wise man, but I am going back thinking I'm wise with your contributions. Sneha, thank you so much for your time today. And, over our various interactions over the past month or so, Mrinalini, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you in Delhi very soon, and to the entire Fort team for having me with them once again. And I look forward to our continued association. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Rahul.
you.
Thank you so much for your time. And thank you so much, Shyam. And
thank you once again.
Thanks everyone for joining in.
And thanks
very soon.
Thanks to the lovely audience. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say thank you to the audience for listening to me and giving me this opportunity to share with all of you. And hope to see you guys soon again. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you. Look forward to it. Thank you.
Bye.
For those who are asking about the recording, so the recording will be made available very soon on Godrej Locks' Facebook channel. We will be happy to share it on our Instagram, social media platforms as well, if you'd like to see the recording. So it'll be made available very soon. But thank you, everyone. And we will keep you posted on the next masterclass session. Please feel free to follow us on Godrej Locks for updates on the next masterclass. Thanks, Rahul and Shyam again.
Thank you very much.
And,
good night, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.